Well, hello and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Tracy Timm, and you are watching the Nth Degree TV, the place to be to take your career from stuck to unstoppable. So it's Wednesday, which means we have a live interview for you today here on the show. And I've been really excited preparing for this because you know how every once in a while you're just going through life and you're meeting people, and some of them you kind of resonate with and some of them not so much. But every once in a while you stumble on a person and you have a ton of not only stuff in common, but a lot of history that you've shared that is kind of unique. And so today's guest, Cameron, and I met literally a few weeks ago, but we had this really awesome conversation about some of the things that we shared in our history around athletics, around our families, around what we want to accomplish with our businesses. And I really resonated with it so much that I wanted to share his story with you guys today because he's so articulate, really smart, and really in tune and in touch with what it takes to make career and life decisions with intention and with purpose. And that's what we talk about a lot here on the Nth Degree. So Cameron, I'm so excited to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
I'm excited. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So I totally buried the lead because Cameron has a really fun background story where he's had to make a couple massive career transitions. And from things that he was doing that he was super aligned with, not only passionately, but also, with his identity, because as an athlete you kind of grow up and people are like, oh, that's Tracy, she plays softball. Well, then the day that I didn't have softball, I didn't really know what to call myself after that. And he's gone through the same thing with baseball. So would you mind just giving everybody a bit of background, telling them your story, and how you got to where you are today?
Sure. I grew up in Dallas here with two little brothers, mother and father, like a normal family, and went to church on Sundays, but a lot of that then was missed because of baseball, like you're talking about, because it just takes over a portion of your life. And then ended up going to a couple different colleges, but ended up at Texas Tech ultimately, and played baseball there with a bunch of really great guys and under great leadership of Coach Larry Hayes. And then I ended up going pro, fortunately, with the Pittsburgh Pirates in the 6th round overall, and scattered around the minor leagues for a little bit. And then once I was out of there, I actually made probably the best decision, which I'm sure we'll touch on at some point in my life, which was to go back to school. And while I was doing that, I was also playing for the Fort Worth Cats in Fort Worth under the American Association at the time. And then I had to make the ultimate decision, and that was when to give it up.
Yeah. And
how to move on from that. And in the process of doing all of that, had a wonderful relationship with God. And then that became all of a sudden a throwing point because of the loss of my father. And it's almost, as most people will tell you, that it's a snowball effect. When things get worse, they just keep getting worse and worse and worse. And one day you wake up and you have to either make a decision or you don't. And you just get stuck. And I chose not to, so I got up off the couch basically and decided, you know what, I'm going to go make something in my life because I want a family and I want to provide and I want to be old school in that sense, right? And so that's what drove me, because I got to watch two wonderful parents my entire life.
Yeah.
And so I did, and I went from being a professional athlete to going door to door, literally door to door, and building a business as a financial advisor.
You did not.
I did.
You went door to door?
For 3 years.
That's incredible. How did you pick the neighborhood?
It's kind of picked for you in a way, whichever one hasn't been knocked on in a while.
That's
but
amazing.
Yeah, I mean, you have to kind of humble yourself and realize that, you know what, I'm trusting in somebody, that this company has been around. I work with Edward Jones, and this company has been around a very long time, and this process has worked, and it's built, and it's proven. So, you know what, if I just do the work, and that's sometimes the hardest thing to do, and ultimately I did the work, and I've built up a pretty good practice that I've still got a long way to build. But nonetheless, I think that's also part of the growing nature of who you are, is that you constantly want to be better and constantly want to work on your relationship, for me with God and with my wife and with my family ultimately. So
yeah. That's so beautiful. And there's so many pieces of this that I think we can go deeper on that are really going to highlight things for people that just fundamentally we struggle with, right? The fear of the unknown and having to leave something that you've done your entire life and make a change, and then being forced into, because I lost my dad as well, which people who've followed this show for a while will know, because I've written about it and talked about it, and it was fairly recent. And some things like that just force you to take a really hard look at your life.
Yeah. One of the things that I really firmly remember, and I don't know about the loss of yours or the loss of anyone else's for that matter, but I can tell you from my experience is that during the funeral, literally, I don't remember much. And mine was in 2009.
Yeah.
And I do not remember hardly anything. The one thing that I remember is that one of my dad's best friends, who happened to be doing the service for my dad's death, was David Flowers. And David Flowers said that day that a parent, any parent for that matter, usually wants their kid to take the baton further than they ever took it in their life. And I don't know why I remembered that, but that was one thing. And it wasn't hugely powerful at that time, but maybe a year later, all of a sudden you look back and you think, I don't remember you being there. I don't remember you being there, but this is the one little piece that I remember. And it's like, okay, I need to go. And I need to go do something. Because boy, would he be disappointed if...
Yeah, you got commissioned. Dang.
There you go, yeah.
Which is a lot of pressure sometimes, I think, that we put on ourselves, or that we feel like our parents expect something particular out of us. And I don't know about you, and I'd love to hear your answer to this, because... I always put a lot of pressure on myself to have a certain kind of success based on what I thought my parents expected, or just like what my dad was super proud of. Like my dad was like, I don't know, I don't think I want you to go to Yale. And then the minute I was there, he was the one wearing the Yale sweatshirt and the Yale hat, had the Yale mug, the Yale dad like bumper sticker. And then the minute I ended up on Wall Street, it was the same thing. Like he, low key, he'd be like, my daughter, she works on Wall Street, and like giving that up was really scary, because it was like, they were trying to talk me off the ledge. But then when I shared with them how miserable I really was, and how I felt like my purpose and sort of intention and passion, if you will, could be something bigger, I just didn't know what it was, that's when I realized that they really just wanted me to be happy.
Yeah.
And be like kind of the best version of myself.
Absolutely, I agree. I think that, my dad ultimately would have wanted me to be happy. He pushed me to be the best person that I could possibly be. I watched, and this was just that constant example of, I think an old Christian family also, of the fact that, my dad would do anything for anybody. And there was a testament of that when you saw 1,000 people at his funeral.
Oh my gosh.
And it was incredible to watch. All these people came that I thought, I went to Jail Long Middle School. And you're talking about, a huge diverse community there.
Yep.
And they were all there. And you're like, this is awesome. He used to go pick up people when we were in junior high just to take them to school.
Yeah.
That couldn't afford or couldn't get to a bus station, and that was just my dad.
Yeah.
And so that was what led me into almost the career that I'm in today. But it was, by way of kind of like you're talking about, my dad was in the jewelry business. And so I naturally tried to do that a little bit.
Okay.
Because I was the oldest of three boys. And so it's like, okay, I got to go take up dad's sword.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And it was where he took me growing up to his meetings and his different things. And he'd tout me around with like a diamond ring on. I'm like, oh, Dad. This is weird. But anyway, And so that's how I got into this, finance business. And then ultimately I was with a different firm that like you, I was miserable at.
Yeah.
And I had to make this decision at some point where I did not like the fact that I felt like I was charging people money for nothing.
Ooh, yeah.
And that it was all about me making money. And don't get me wrong, I want people to be successful, but success is not rated necessarily on money. It's not. I mean, if you want to quantify it, sure, things are more important to different people. That's understandable.
Yeah.
But I think that overall you have to be comfortable in what you're doing, which then leads to a happiness. And I knew that I loved two things in the world, and one of them was people, like my father, and the other one, myself, was food. And so
Right.
I tried to start a sandwich company.
Okay.
And I failed miserably. And
this cracks me up because when we met, we were drinking like really nice red wine, and I was like, I think I like this guy, and eating good food and being around people that we really cared about. And I'm with you.
Yeah. Because it's, those people that are passionate in the kitchen or in the fields of the grapes and the vintners or the winemakers or you get into any industry and anything, and whether it's, building a house, construction stuff to, Wall Street or anything like that. If that's their passion and that's what they're happy about, then that's what they should do. And ultimately, being a teacher or being a hedge fund manager, it's the same thing. Just where's your happiness lie?
Sure. Yeah.
What do you want out of your life? That's the ultimate question. That's what I ask a lot of my clients. But it's ultimately, what do you want your life to look like?
Do you find that they have a hard time answering that generally?
Absolutely, especially the younger generations, of course, right? The older ones, they've been in a mix of different lives, and I think a lot of the successful ones will tell you the same things, especially the ones that are successfully happy. They'll tell you that making mistakes over their life is what teaches them to grow, and that's something that I just literally put a foothold in a long time ago. Another rare memory, but Blake Griffin, I'm sure most people know who he is. Oklahoma basketball player, went on to play in the NBA. And
Heard of him.
He said, a long time ago, and I don't remember exactly when he said it or verbatim of what he said because I can't quote him necessarily. It's just a memory. It's just, you got to fall in love with failure. You got to fall in love with failing. And the more you fail, the more you'll start to succeed.
Woof.
And so, as an athlete, you grasp and you're like, yeah.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, so you and I have talked about this too, because baseball and softball, statistically speaking, you said, I don't want to steal this term because he said it, but it's a game of failure. It's a game where you master failure and you master getting over it because you literally fail at bat. If you're good, you fail at bat 70% of the time.
You'll be in the Hall of Fame if you fail 70% of the time.
70%, that's, and there's nowhere else that you can, is there anywhere else you can learn that? But you know what? I didn't see it back then. Did you see it for what it was back then?
I think I did in college naturally, and then in pro ball it becomes something else. A little bit for me it did.
Okay.
I think I started to think of it too finely tuned, and they, in a way, and each time you go up a level, something new gets integrated where it actually makes you make more decisions.
Okay.
And more thought process, but because you're a professional, you're supposed to be able to do that. And you start overthinking everything now.
Sure, yeah.
Whether it be getting down a sac bunt, right?
Yeah.
Or getting a guy over from second to third another way.
Yeah.
Or a pop fly to the outfield with a guy on third in less than 2 outs. I mean, this is just all memory stuff because I don't even hardly watch it anymore. But that being said, I think that, yeah.
Okay, so I want to go all the way back because you totally slow played that you were awesome.
No.
Come on. I do this all the time too. But you still hold a record at Texas Tech for something, right?
There's a bad one, yeah, I can tell you that one.
It's like Joaquin Phoenix, most strikeouts.
No, it's most errors in a season.
It is not.
I believe so, unless somebody...
What's the good one, though?
Most Grand Slams in Big 12 history, I think.
Most Grand Slams in Big 12 history.
It's a hard one to find, apparently.
It's super cool. That just means that you were in the right place at the right time
My team was on base.
times.
Yeah.
Exactly, right? So you had a great team, but you were the closer. And just going to be proud, okay? You did something really, you worked your whole life to be excellent at a game, right? At a sport, at a skill, at this thing that then by then, you're Cameron the Grand Slam guy, right? It happens. And my curiosity is then, so you translate that into professional athletics, which seems pretty straightforward and direct. But then as you were in professional athletics, what started to eat at you and say, well, maybe this isn't my long-term thing. And maybe I want something slightly different out of my life. What was that like?
Winning didn't mean as much. And I'm not talking about personal, because baseball in itself is a game of individuals played by a team. Every individual has to make a movement. The pitcher has to throw the ball to the catcher has to catch the ball. But then in the moment, it's just the pitcher versus the hitter.
Yeah.
And then if a ground ball is hit to the shortstop, then the shortstop has to make the play and throw it to first. Whereas in football or basketball, Basketball is a little bit more individual too. It has some individual movements.
Yeah.
But football is very, very team oriented.
Sure.
If the left, tackle is not blocking, well, then the right-handed quarterback is going to get hammered from the defensive end.
Yeah.
And that has nothing to do with the quarterback's play.
Right.
Right. But in baseball, it's different, and I think that a lot of sports are like that, especially the individual sports.
Yeah.
And I think that it really just you stop focusing so much on winning a title or a conference or a national championship or getting to Omaha. Like, that was the thing.
Oh my
you
God,
get
I
to
know.
Omaha.
I
And I never
know.
made it. Fortunately, our Texas Tech Red Raiders are doing it pretty much every year, thanks to Timmy Tadlock. I love old Timmy Tadlock. I played for Tadlock. And his guys are playing really well, and they just love to play. But, I think that because there's a lot of different moving parts in everybody's life. Tadlock taught me one a long time ago, and he tells all interviewers this the same way now. It's how he recruits players, too. He just finds guys that absolutely love to play the game.
Yep.
And they don't care if they're playing for 40 innings or for 40 hours. It does not matter. They just love to play the game.
to play.
Because the game is a very pretty and beautiful game. And it's all business when you go to pro ball.
Yep.
It stops becoming as pretty. It stops becoming as emotional. And when that leaves, it's like, well, now it's just a drag.
Yep.
It's not,
Yep.
and you're failing more, because you're playing against better players. And, with happenstance, all things happen during it. But at the end of the day, I think you have to make a decision. And a lot of guys have struggled with that a lot more than I think in any sports. They all struggle with the transition between athletics at any level and going to the real life.
Sure. Yeah. It's so interesting because I get asked this question a lot because I do a lot of career coaching, as you guys know. And people ask me, like, what if I take what I'm really passionate about and I love doing and I start to monetize it in some way? I do it as part of my job. I start a business around it. I make it my work. Am I going to stop loving it? And sometimes that happens. And I think probably in this case, when we're talking about athletics specifically, it's pretty easy for that to happen when all of the passion and excitement and the competitiveness gets translated into what you're saying is basically numbers and lots of overanalyzing and lots of data.
Lots of stuff, yeah.
Yeah. So it slowly, it sounds like it just sort of seeped its
It kind of
joy
did, yeah.
away.
And I mean, don't get me wrong. There's not really many baseball players in professional sports that leave on their own.
Yeah.
It's usually because you're released somehow, some way, whether it be, never
Or
from
injured.
injured.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you'll get injured, but you're never released because of that injury. Then it'll take about a year, and then, they can't do that. So,
Right.
But mine, I was released also, and I had broken ankle. I had broke my ankle, tore a couple tendons, yada, yada. But nonetheless, I mean, it's like, okay, well, maybe God's telling me that I shouldn't be doing this. And
Sure.
And that's, I never interpret God. I'm not.
No, but to your point, you
God,
have to
but
be
I mean,
open and humble enough to hear that message and say, maybe it's my time to really find something that I can pour my whole self into.
Well, I mean, to that degree, I guess it took me a while to do that because I still went and played afterward.
Yeah.
And then the losing of my father was the big straw.
Sure.
And I went and I had a tryout with the Seattle Mariners. I remember this after my last season. And that was in Mesa, Arizona. And I thought I played lights out. I thought I did so good. But at that moment, if they didn't call me back, I made this very clean decision that if they weren't going to call me back, that I was done forever.
Wow.
And I gotta go do. If I want a family, because that was ultimately what I wanted.
Yes.
I wanted a family, and I want a family, and I have a wonderful wife now who is tackling
is awesome.
Incredible career as a physician. She's done with residency in a month, so I'm very proud of her. And that's been a fun struggle to watch her go through. Hard struggle, but I wouldn't be where I am today if all of this didn't happen the way that it did. Right. And there's only one person that can do that, and that's God. But
yeah,
that relationship has been a while coming back after my dad's lost too. So.
Oh my gosh, yeah, you're not kidding about that. But I think what you did that's really beautiful, just to synthesize this idea, because we teach this in the Nth Degree program, is the idea of having an out. that like, I'm going to give it my all, I'm going to give it my best effort, but if this doesn't happen by this date, if this team doesn't call me back from this tryout, if the, you give yourself an out. I gave it everything I could. It didn't work out the way that maybe I wanted or expected or hoped. And so now I'm going to lean in and say, okay, what's next? And I call those bus stops. It's like, how long am I going to sit at this bus stop before I just get up and walk, or before I call an Uber, before I, do something different? And I think it takes a lot of the pressure off too, because you could have, baseball, maybe more than a lot of things, you could hustle your way through that. You could play this minor team, that, independent league, this whatever, and you scrape a living, right? Just trying to leg it out. And I mean, that's kind of like the whole premise of Bull Durham, right? Just like trying to make it work year after year. And what you did that's really beautiful is give yourself a really nice, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. I'm going to give it my all, but then if it doesn't work, I'm going to be okay going a different direction.
Yeah, I wish I could have told you at that time that that's exactly what I was thinking.
But like, you did it,
Right, I did. I mean, but at the same time, at that moment, you're like, okay, I'm going to make this decision, and then the next decision is the hardest one you're ever going to make. And that's where you have to find what you love. And that's the hardest part, because maybe what you actually love. I went down to the Bahamas to try to learn how to be a master scuba diver.
Really?
And I only have like 100 dives now, but
only 100.
But I went down to do something that I loved and to try, because what if?
Right.
And that's at the end of the day. I think that anybody has to do is anybody has to give something a chance.
Yes.
And if you give it a chance, then you never know where it might take you or what you might learn from it.
Yeah. You know what I'm really latched onto most recently is I heard somebody say that even firefighters will say that if you don't know what to do, the worst thing you can do is nothing. Yeah. That it's actually better to do the wrong thing in that moment as long as you're doing something, because when you do nothing, you learn nothing. Yeah. But when you do something, you get new information. It helps you make the next better decision. So I want to go through this with you. So what did you try? What did you know you loved? How did you test them out? And then how did you land on finance? Because I love the sandwich thing. I love the.
My first job was I was in restaurants forever as a waiter.
Okay.
And that was my off-season jobs during baseball that I always did.
Really?
I was a waiter every year.
That's amazing.
Yeah, from McCormick and Schmick's at North Park Mall to my first one was at Patrizio's when it was in Highland Park Village.
Yes.
And then McCormick and Schmick's, and then it ended up at Lonesome Dove in Fort Worth because I was playing in Fort Worth.
Got it.
That was my last bit of the restaurant world.
That's amazing.
And then I got into hospice. And I have no idea why I wanted it. I think because somebody came in my life that said, you know what? You're going to make a lot of money doing this. And I'm like, yes, I can make a lot of money. I had no idea what I was doing. What's hospice?
Yeah.
Oh, geez. But, you get to touch some pretty neat people. And
you have a very calming demeanor, too. I bet you were good at that.
About that. My wife might tell you that. but I didn't like it. I didn't like it. And then was the diamond industry.
Got it.
And then in the search of a diamond industry, I met two guys that were working at another finance firm. And I walked in and I said, what do you guys do here?
Wow.
And I said it to the receptionist at a Fortune 500 company.
Yeah.
And
she was probably like,
sit down. Let me see if I can help you with anything. So these two guys come out and they're like an hour and a half later or something. It was some ridiculous wait.
Yeah.
No idea why I sat there that long. But I did. And Jeremy and a guy named Dave, Jeremy brought me back and we sat down with Dave, and then all of a sudden now they're like, you want a job?
Dude.
And I was like, yeah, why not? And I had no idea really at that moment what I was getting myself into.
Yep.
I was there, 6 months or so. And that was the job that I mentioned that, it was more about me making money instead of affecting how my clients live and work and play and do their thing. And then was the sandwich shop.
Yep.
It wasn't a shop. It was more of an out of my kitchen. I would package sandwiches and deliver them to companies at lunch, right?
I love it.
Something. I was trying to monetize mine, right? What I loved.
You did.
And
I know you did.
And then eventually I was making an order, and the guy said, I got a guy you need to meet at Edward Jones. And I met him. He said that this is the way that we do our business. This is how you can build it. If you follow this, you'll be very successful. And you get to touch a lot of people's lives. And along the way, in my opinion, I think I've touched a lot of people.
That's so awesome.
And if anybody hasn't seen it, I would I would say you need to watch gosh, I don't like saying this.
What is it?
University of Texas.
Ugh. Ugh.
But University of Texas, it's their graduation speech by the Major General, ex-Navy SEAL.
Oh, the Make Your Bed guy? Or no?
The Touch All Your Lives guy.
Yeah, okay, got it.
And yes, it is the Make Your Bed guy. Yeah. Yeah, and I've showed that to a bunch of trainees.
I literally make my bed because of that
yeah.
guy.
Yeah, me too, I think. Yeah, and so at the end of it, it's like if you touch these, if you help or touch these people's lives, how many actual lives you end up affecting over time. So
it's so awesome.
I think that's awesome. That's why I do what I do.
What I feel like you've latched onto that's really beautiful that has deeply impacted my life too is listening to the input of people around you at certain periods of your life. Like I feel like God always speaks to me through other people, and it's always the right person at the right time saying the right thing. It's the right person at the right time saying the right thing in the right way. Yeah. Where you hear it, right? And you were open to the input and the feedback from these people. Whereas I feel like a lot of us just when we're in our career or we're trying to make something work, we just put on like personal blinders. And we're like, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. I'm focused on this. And a lot of times in life that's good to maintain your, effectiveness and your focus. But a lot of times I also feel like you miss out on some of the serendipity and some of the opportunities that you would never see. Yeah. There's statistically speaking, 75 to 80% of the work of the marketplace of work, meaning how jobs get secured, is fundamentally hidden because it's done through networking. It's I got a guy you got to talk to. I got this. I got that. And if we use that to our advantage, that's great. But if we ignore it, then you're just noise. You're the one of 1,000 resumes that's on a digital pile somewhere being fed through an algorithm that is never going to see you and your heart and your values and your choices, which you did naturally.
Like I said, without pulling hairs out, I mean sometimes, but
no,
at the end of the day,
we're simplifying.
We lose people who are in our lives for a reason, and we lose some of those people along the way, and that's okay too. Yeah, that's been a hard. I'm not talking about just my dad. I'm talking about some old friends. Yeah. And things that I wish I still had relationships sometimes with. Yeah. But then other times I realized that those people were in my life for a reason. Yep. And, I was in their life for a reason too. And now we're both off doing our own thing. And at some point we may reconnect, and that's okay too. Right? But at the end of the day, it comes all back to kind of, for me, what do you want to do? Yeah. What do you want to do? Like with me, it's all about I want to make and have and love my family.
I love it.
And
what was the process of you identifying that as your core value? Because it sounds like you're super clear on what matters to you. And that's the number one, and I probably say this every episode, the biggest thing that people struggle with. Every call I have, the number one thing that people struggle with is clarity of knowing what matters and having a value stack that they go back to consistently.
I think a lot of that has to do with the way that you were brought up with your parents. Like my parents were very clear in the way that a marriage was supposed to work. And if there was a fight, it was made up. But you know what? They were there forever with each other. Yeah. They were married 40 years when I lost my dad. So, wow. My wife's family is together, but that doesn't mean that people who come from a divorced family or a separated family or a single mom or a single dad, then that doesn't mean that they can't go do something special too. Right. And I think that it's all about, a lot of it has to do with the way that you were raised, but then a lot of it has to do with, because you can say, okay, I was divorced, well then I'm okay to get a divorce. Yeah. Well, or you can very simply just say, well, you know what? I'm not going to get a divorce because my family got a divorce. You have a choice to make, right? And at the end of the day, life is all about the choice. Yes. But I think that my core value was brought up from my mom and my dad. Yeah. And ultimately, which ended up being my core value, is my relationship with God. Yeah. And that was through my bringing up process. But, I don't think that we're brought on earth to be selfish. I think that we're brought on earth to give to other people and to make the world a better place.
I love that.
And so, and that is deep. It's just how to do it. It's hard.
Yeah, you're right. It's like theoretically, that sounds awesome. What's my contribution going to be? Right. Okay, I have a question. This is going to be hard. This is our wrap up question. And maybe it's not hard for you. I don't know. Just assume. If somebody is watching this and they're like, I'm going through that transition, or I'm being forced to make a difficult decision, and I don't necessarily know what I value or what I'm good at or what I want to do, what would you advise them? Where would you advise them to start?
Be okay with making a mistake.
Ooh.
I
Nailed
would
it.
100%, like, if you choose the wrong career path, if you make the wrong job decision, or you stay an extra couple weeks at the job that you're currently at, and you don't feel like you can make a mistake, or that the world, this is going to define me. If I go to this job, and then forever I'll be defined as that, where I find that hard to believe. I find that a person is so deeply strong inside of themselves that they can overcome anything without drugs, without alcohol, without anything, without any sort of manipulation of the mind.
Yeah.
When you talk about going back to that, it's sugar. Sugar manipulates you. We're drinking coffee, right?
God, I love my coffee, though.
Me too.
Do.
You know, and we've talked about red wine, and
Yes,
we've talked, you know, so
yes.
it's not. If there's anything, I would say, just like I said to my brothers, and it's just be okay with failure. Be okay with making a mistake into the wrong job or into the wrong industry, or, you know what, it's okay.
Yeah.
It is, because you learn from it.
Yes, and you learn nothing from doing nothing. I love that you went back to that. I think that's so smart, so deep, so brilliant. So Cameron, this is awesome.
Thank you.
I know in my heart that people are going to get massive value out of this, if not already. If people want to get in touch with you, they're like, I love this guy. I'm down. I'm picking up what he's putting down, whether it's financially or whatever. What's the best way for people to reach out to you, contact you, that you're comfortable with?
I would say look me up online.
There
I don't
you go.
know if I can. I mean, I work at Edward Jones. Yeah, I would say just look me up online, on Facebook. Send me a message if you would like, that kind of thing.
Awesome.
I'm not. It's not a public profile, but I believe I can accept a message.
There. Yes, you can.
So
because I know, like I said, that financial advisory especially is becoming more about like life advice and being a good person and being in it for what they want to accomplish with their money and with their lives, and so I know that people are always looking for advisors that they really identify with. It's the same with career coaching, right? Like nobody's going to want to work with me unless they like what I'm talking about and they resonate with my sort of where I'm at. So same with you. So thank you so much for being on the show. I really hope that you guys enjoyed our show today. I loved putting it together. I was so happy that Cameron came into my life and was able to share his story with you. Again, you are watching the Nth Degree TV. If you like this and you want some more, go to tracytimm.com, TracyTimm.com, to get all of our goodies. We've got blogs, we've got podcasts, we've got YouTube shows, I mean, you name it. So, but if nothing else, make sure that you come back. We go live every Monday with just me and every Wednesday with a live interview. Thank you so much for being here. Remember, now is your time to take your career from stuck to unstoppable. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again next time on the Nth Degree TV.